Hi there and welcome to Tech Life, a channel where I aim to review everything from selfie sticks to laptops to IDs for coding, video editing, software producing, thumbnails, essentially anything tech related. If you are new to the channel, please consider subscribing. If you have anything that you think I should review, please let me know in the comments and I'll do my best to review that product. Welcome to part 6 of this beginner's JavaScript tutorial. In this short video, we will be looking at how to get input from a user and then make use of that input. So let's fire up Visual Studio. And for those of you who have seen the first 4 or 5 parts of this tutorial, you'll be familiar with these two files. The first one here is the HTML file, and the second one is the JavaScript file. And we are using the HTML file to call out to our JavaScript file, and then once that is called, then whatever code sits in this JavaScript file is then run. Okay, so I'm going to show you, we're going to look at 2 different ways of getting input from a user. The first method will be a simple Windows prompt, and the second one, or the second method will be a slightly more complicated method, but it's somewhat more of a real world type of scenario using the HTML text box and a submit button. So in the first instance, we're just going to create a variable in order to store a value in. So in order to create a variable, we use the keyword let and the variable name is model. Okay, and so we're going to use a method called Windows prompt in order to prompt the user to type a value in. So, and we're going to assign the value of whatever the user types in to this variable that we've created. So we're going to say model equals, and it's going to be window dot prompt. Open and close parentheses. Open and close dog ears. And within this, we're going to type in please enter the model of your Lambo. And hopefully the user will type in a model. We can close this line off with a semicolon. So whatever value is returned in this method will be assigned to the variable that we've created in this first line up here. Once we have a value in that variable, we can then go ahead and manipulate that. So we could do something quite simple like displaying the value contained within that variable to the console. So we could say console.log model. Let's Control S to save. And F5. Okay, so running that code, we are prompted with please enter the model of your Lambo. And I'm gonna say, let's say Countach. Oh, we don't want to translate. What we're going to do is look at our console by calling DevTools, which is F12. And if we go to console, we can see that we're outputting the value contained within our variable model. Okay, so a better But maybe a slightly more difficult way to obtain user input is to use the HTML page itself. So if we head back over to Visual Code, and what we're going to do here is we're going to add a label, we're going to add a text box and also a button. The text box is going to be used in order to capture the input from the user, and then the button will be used in order to submit that captured value in order for us to be able to then save it to a variable and then eventually display it into the console. So we can start off by adding a label tag here. Label, oops. And in between these two tags, we can put our label in. So again, we're going to ask for the user to please enter the model of your Lambo, like so. And we're going to use, sorry, that's just Alexa in the background trying to be helpful. Alexa, stop. We can use BR tags in order to add a line break. Okay, so the next tag that we're going to use is called input. So it's input, and this will create our text box. And we know it's a text box because we're going to define the type as text, and we're going to give this text box an ID so we can then reference it in our code. So I'm going to call this my model, and then again we're going to use the BR tags in order to get a line break in there. And the last thing we're going to do on this HTML page is to use the button tag in order to create a button. Oops. BUTTON. We're going to give this, we're going to put text in within the button, and it's going to be submit. But first we're going to define it as, we're going to give it a type of button. Type equals button, and again we're going to give this button an ID. ID equals, and I'm going to just call it my button. And then the text we're going to put within the button is submit, and then we're going to close off the tags like so. So a quick recap on what we've done. We've created a label by using the label tag, and that label is going to ask our user to enter a model of their Lamborghini. We've also created a text box in which the user will be able to type that value, and then we've got a button that will then be able to submit the captured value. Okay, so let's save this HTML code and head over to our JavaScript file. The first thing we're going to do here is create a variable. We're going to call it model. So we use the keyword let. Next, we need to use a method. That method is called getElementById. And so use document dot get element by ID, and this allows us to reference an element on that HTML page, an element that we want to reference is my button, and on my button we want to call the onClick method. So we do a dot onClick, and then we assign that to this function, and we use curly braces. And now, just briefly, when the button on our HTML page is clicked, this function is called, and anything that's contained within these curly braces, any code that's contained within these curly braces will get run. So in here, we need to, again, we're going to use the get element by ID method, but this time we're going to obtain a value from our my model text box. So anything that's typed into this text box, we need to obtain the value of that in order for us to display it on the console. And again, we do that using document and dot get element by ID, and this time, this time we're going to use my model. I need to spell it correctly, my model, and we use dot value in order to get the value of that text box, semicolon to close that line off. And then once we have the value, we need to assign this to model, sorry. We're saying model equals document.get element ID my model, and that value is going to get stored in this model variable. Once we have a value in there, then we can go ahead and say console.log, and then the name of the variable, which is model. And again, we can close off that line with a semicolon. Cool. Control S that, save it, go back to HTML page, F5. What model can we put in this time? Aventador. If I can remember how to spell it. Event door. Submit that. F12 for the DevTools, and we can see that the console has the value of Aventador on it. Once we have a value in model, we can do pretty much what we want to it. We can maybe even display it back on the HTML page. So if we go back to the HTML page and maybe add an ID to our label. So we're going to say ID equals, let's be original, call it my label. And we need to put inverted commas around here. So now ID has a label has an ID, so that means that we can make a reference to it. Let's Control S that and go back to our JavaScript file. Okay, let's make some room here. Let me get rid of this. So once we have model, we can probably edit the inner HTML of the label by using something like following bits of code. So it's document, and we're going to get the element by ID again, and we want my label. Label, and this time we're going to look at the inner HTML, and we're going to assign the value that we have stored in model to that label. Let's see what this does. Control S. F5. And let's go for Gallardo. Submit. And now the actual label has changed, as you can see. Let's just zoom in here. Initially it said please enter the model of your Lambo, but once we hit the submit button, we're able to actually change the label itself. Let's see if we can't make this a bit more friendly. Go back to here, and we can do something like my Lamborghini is a looks okay. If we save that, Control S, head back to our home page, F5, and let's do. I never know how to pronounce this. Revolut. Submit that. My Lamborghini is whatever, however you pronounce this. Excellent. Okay, so that's it for the short video. We looked at getting and displaying input from a user. The first method was easier, but obviously a lot less practical. And second method was slightly more complicated, but you can use it in a real world scenario. Hopefully this video has been useful. If so, do please hit the like button, maybe even consider subscribing so you don't miss the next one. Thank you very much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much.